It was a cold evening when Emily moved into her new apartment. She had just gotten a new job in a small city far from her hometown. The apartment was on the top floor of an old building. It was cheap, quiet, and close to her office. Perfect for a fresh start. The landlord, Mr. Keller, was an old man with tired eyes. He gave Emily the key and helped her carry one of her bags. "This building is old," he said. "The walls are thin. If you hear strange noises at night, just ignore them." Emily smiled politely, thinking he was just being dramatic. After all, old buildings always made strange sounds. Inside the apartment was small but cozy. There was a bedroom, a bathroom, a tiny kitchen, and a big clock on the living room wall. The clock looked very old, made of dark wood with golden hands. Emily tried to take it down to replace it with a painting, but it wouldn't move. It was stuck to the wall like it had been there forever. She gave up and started unpacking. As the sun went down, the room slowly filled with shadows. Emily turned on a lamp and made a cup of tea. She felt peaceful, ready for a new life. At exactly midnight, the clock made a loud sound. Dong. Emily jumped. She wasn't expecting it to work. Dong, it rang again and again, 12 times. Then, silence. Suddenly the lights flickered. Emily looked up, confused. Then she heard something, a soft whisper. It sounded like her name. Emily. She turned around, but no one was there. She checked the hallway. Empty. She thought maybe it was her imagination. It was her first night. She was tired. Maybe the old building was playing tricks on her. She went to bed. That night, she had a strange dream. She was standing in her living room. Everything looked normal, except the clock. It was melting like wax in fire. The golden hands were spinning fast. In the dream, she heard someone crying behind her. But when she turned around, the room was empty. Then a voice whispered again, louder this time, "You shouldn't be here." Emily woke up, gasping for air. It was still dark. The clock showed 3 a.m. She looked around. Everything was quiet, but the dream had felt so real. The next morning, Emily told herself it was just stress. First nights were always hard. She made coffee and opened the windows, but when she looked outside, she saw something strange in the building across the street. A woman was standing at a window, staring at her. Pale face, black hair, not moving, just staring. Emily stepped back, heart about racing. She looked again. The woman was gone. She shook her head. "I need sleep," she said out loud. Later that day, she asked the landlord about the apartment. "Has anyone lived here before me?" she asked. Mr. Keller looked away for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "A young woman. She stayed for a few weeks. She complained about the clock, said it rang at midnight and she saw things. I told her it was just the wind." "What happened to her?" "She left," Mr. Keller said quickly. "Now don't worry, you'll be fine." But Emily wasn't sure. That night, she looked up old news about the building, and what she found made her blood turn cold. 5 years ago, a woman was found dead in that same apartment. Time of death, midnight. The next day, Emily could not stop thinking about the woman who died in her apartment. She went to work, but she couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept returning to the article she found online. The woman's name was Sophie Miller, 27 years old. She lived in Emily's apartment for only 1 month. Neighbors said she often looked scared. Some said they heard her talking to someone at night, even though she lived alone. Emily felt cold every time she thought about it. That evening, she returned to her apartment. Everything looked the same, But something felt different. The air was heavy. The light bulbs flickered again as she stepped inside. She closed the door and looked at the old clock on the wall. 5 p.m. She tried not to look at it again. Emily made tea and sat on the couch with her laptop. She wanted to relax, maybe watch a movie, but then she heard it, a soft knock on the wall. It came from the bedroom. Knock, knock, knock. Emily stood up slowly and walked to the bedroom. She opened the door. The room was empty. She looked at the wall. Nothing. Suddenly she heard crying, a soft, sad sound. It was coming from the corner of the room, but when she looked, there was no one there. "Hello?" she said, her voice shaking. "Is someone there?" The crying stopped. Emily took a deep breath and turned on all the lights. She searched the entire apartment. No one. Nothing. Just silence. She walked back to the living room. PM. Her eyes went to the clock. She waited. Her heart was beating fast. Then it began. Dong, the clock rang loudly. One chime, then another. Dong, 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 12 times. The lights flickered. The air turned cold. And then the crying returned. Louder now. Emily turned around. Her eyes widened. There was a woman standing in the hallway. She was pale. Wet black hair hung over her face. Her white nightgown was stained with blood. Her hands were shaking. She looked broken. Emily couldn't move. The woman slowly raised her head. Her eyes were dark and full of pain. "You have to help me," she whispered. Emily's lips trembled. Who are you?" "I can't leave," the woman said. "He's still here." Before Emily could ask anything, the woman disappeared. Just like that. Gone. Emily dropped to her knees, shaking. She stayed up the rest of the night with all the lights on. The next morning, Emily went downstairs to speak to Mr. Keller. She knocked on his door several times. Finally, he opened it. His eyes were tired, like he hadn't slept in days. "I saw her," Emily said. "The woman. Sophie." Mr. Keller's face went pale. "She talked to me. She said he's still here." "What does that mean? Who is he?" Mr. Keller looked down and shook his head. "You shouldn't have moved in. That apartment, it has a past. Sophie wasn't the first. There was another girl before her, and another one before that." Emily's eyes filled with fear. "What are you talking about?" "There's something wrong with that room," Mr. Keller whispered. "Something evil. Every girl who stays there sees him. The man who comes at midnight." Emily's hands started shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because no one believes it," he said. "But if you stay, he will come for you too." Emily turned and walked away quickly. She didn't know what to think. Was this real? Was she losing her mind? That night, she packed her bags. She decided to leave the next morning, but at exactly midnight, she heard the voice again. Closer, deeper, right behind her. "Don't run," it said. "You're already mine." She turned around. No one there, but on the mirror, written in fog, were the words, "Dead at midnight." Emily didn't sleep at all. She sat on her bed, holding a kitchen knife in her shaking hands. The words written on the mirror, "Dead at midnight," were still clear in her mind. She had wiped them away, but it didn't help. The message was already burned into her brain. She waited for the morning, watching the clock tick slowly. Finally, at 6 a.m., she grabbed her bags and left the apartment. She didn't care about her job. She didn't care about her rent. She just wanted to leave. But when she reached the front door of the building, it wouldn't open. She pulled and pulled, but it was locked. There was no keyhole. No knob, just cold, hard wood. She ran back to Mr. Keller's apartment and banged on the door. No answer. She kept banging, still nothing. She looked at her phone. No signal. Emily's heart raced. She tried the back door. Same thing. Stuck. Like the building had sealed itself. She returned to her apartment, feeling dizzy. Something was very wrong. She opened the windows and shouted for help, but the street outside was empty, silent. No cars, no people. Like the world had disappeared. Emily backed away, confused and terrified. Then she saw it. A figure standing in the alley below, a tall man, wearing a black coat. His face was covered in shadow. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there, looking up at her window. She gasped and shut the curtain. Her heart thumped, loud in her chest. She waited a few minutes, then peeked out again. He was gone. Later that day, Emily searched the apartment. She wanted answers. She opened every drawer, every cabinet. She even pulled up the old rug in the living room. That's when she found it. A loose floorboard. She pried it open and found a small box inside. It was old, covered in dust. Inside were newspaper clippings, a photo, and a tape recorder. She read the first newspaper clipping. It was about another woman named Rachel Ford, who had also died in the apartment. Same age, same time of death. Midnight. The next article was about Anna Lee, also found dead at 12:00 a.m. 3 women, all young, all lived in the same apartment, all died at midnight. Emily looked at the photo. It was of the apartment building from many years ago. In one window, a dark shape stood, tall and shadowy, with no face. Emily felt sick. Her hands shook as she picked up the recorder. She pressed play. A woman's voice filled the room, soft, scared. "This is Sophie. If you're listening, it means he's chosen you too. He comes at midnight. You can't run. You can't hide. He watches you first. Then he comes closer. Then..." There was silence, then a loud scream, then nothing. Emily dropped the recorder. Breathing hard, she looked at the clock. 50 p.m. She tried to stay calm. She closed all the windows, locked the doors, turned on every light in the apartment. Then she sat in the corner with the knife in her hand again. Tick, tick, tick. 11:55 p.m. She heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, heavy. She held her breath. Footsteps stopped outside her door. "Knock, knock, go away," she screamed, but the door creaked open on its own. No one was there. She closed it and pushed the couch in front of it. Then she saw him, standing in the kitchen. Tall, black coat, no face, the man in the shadows. She screamed and ran into the bathroom. Locked the door, hid in the bathtub. She heard the clock, dong midnight, dong dong 12 chimes. And then, silence. No footsteps, no breathing, just silence. Then, slowly, the bathroom light began to flicker. She looked up. In the mirror, his face appeared, a twisted black mass of darkness and pain. "Welcome," he whispered. "You're part of me now." Emily woke up on the bathroom floor. Her head hurt. Her hands were shaking. She looked around. The door was still locked. The lights were off. The air felt cold and heavy. She sat up slowly, trying to remember what happened. The last thing she saw was the man's face in the mirror. That face made of shadows. That horrible whisper, "You're part of me now." She looked at the mirror. It was cracked and written on the glass, in what looked like blood, were the words, "Midnight is only the beginning." Emily backed away. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She had to get out. Now. She grabbed her phone and tried again. Still no signal. She ran down the stairs, but the building was different. It was no longer the same old building. The wallpaper was torn. The walls were covered in black handprints. The hallway lights flickered red. Everything smelled like smoke and decay. She tried every door. Locked. Or worse. The doors were fake, just painted onto the walls. Then she saw something. Shadow, moving at the end of the hall. It walked like a person, but its arms were too long. Its head was tilted. It scratched the wall with long, sharp fingers as it walked. Emily turned and ran. She didn't know where she was going. The building had changed. Hallways that didn't exist before. Doors that led to nowhere. Windows that looked out into blackness. No streets, no sky, just endless night. She was trapped. After what felt like hours, she found her apartment again. It was quiet, normal, too normal. She stepped inside. Everything was back the way it was before. The couch, the kitchen, even the clock. It showed 6:10 p.m. Emily blinked. "Am I going crazy?" she whispered. Then, her phone buzzed. Signal, 1 bar. A message appeared. Unknown number. Don't trust what you see. She stared at it. Then another message came. He shows you lies. You are still inside. Emily dropped her phone. Was this real? Was she still trapped in the nightmare version of the building? She ran to the mirror. Her reflection wasn't right. It didn't move when she did. It stared at her with wide, dead eyes. Then it smiled, a dark, cruel smile. And then it reached out from the mirror. Emily screamed and ran to the door, but the hallway was no longer there. Instead, there was only a long staircase going down. It didn't make sense. The apartment was on the top floor, but now the hallway was gone, replaced by this stairwell that went deeper and deeper into darkness. Emily had no choice. She stepped onto the stairs and began to descend. The air grew colder with every step. The walls around her were covered in strange symbols. She heard voices whispering in languages she didn't understand. The stairs felt endless, but finally she reached a door. It was made of black wood. On it, a single word was carved: choose. Under the word, there were 2 handles. One said truth, the other said escape. Emily stood there, frozen. If she chose escape, maybe she could wake up and leave this nightmare. But if she chose truth, she would finally know what was really happening. She reached out, hand shaking, and chose truth. The door creaked open. Inside was a room filled with mirrors. In every mirror she saw herself, but different. Some versions of her were crying. Others were screaming. One was covered in blood. Then she saw something in the center of the room, a chair, and in that chair sat a man, tied up, mouth covered, eyes wide with fear. He looked at her. He looked just like Mr. Keller. Emily stared at the man in the chair. He was shaking. His mouth was covered with black tape, and ropes tied him tightly to the chair. His eyes were wide with fear, locked on Emily. His face looked just like Mr. Keller, but older, thinner, and much more afraid. "Who are you?" Emily whispered. The man made a muffled sound and moved his head, trying to speak. Emily slowly walked forward. Her hands trembled as she reached out and peeled the tape off his mouth. The man gasped for air. "Please, help me." "You're Mr. Keller?" she asked. He nodded quickly. "Yes, but not the one you know." Emily's eyes narrowed. "What Does that mean? The man looked at the mirrors. This place. This is where he traps us. The shadow. He shows you lies, memories, other versions of people. The Mr. Keller you spoke to upstairs. He's not real. He's part of the curse. Emily stepped back. No, I saw him. I spoke to him. He's part of him, the man said. The one who comes at midnight. Emily's heart pounded. Who is he? The man swallowed hard. No one knows his real name. But a long time ago, someone did a terrible thing in that apartment. A man took the life of an innocent woman at midnight. Her spirit cried out for help. But instead of peace, something darker came. It feeds on pain. It traps souls. It creates a prison that looks like your home. But it's not. Emily looked around at the endless mirrors. I chose truth, she said quietly. Now I'm here. What happens next? The man lowered his head. Now you see it all. Now he knows you're ready. He's coming for you, not just at midnight anymore. He's stronger now. Suddenly, all the mirrors in the room shattered at once. The sound was deafening. Emily screamed and ducked, covering her head. When she looked up, the man in the chair was gone. The chair was empty. In his place stood the shadow man, tall, dark, and faceless. Why are you doing this? Emily shouted. His voice echoed through the broken room. Deep, inhuman. You came to me when you stepped into that apartment. I didn't know, she cried. I didn't choose this. But you opened the door, he said. You heard the whispers. You stayed after midnight. You wanted to know the truth. Emily backed away. What do you want from me? The shadow figure raised a hand and pointed at her chest. I want your soul. The mirrors began to float in the air, spinning like sharp blades. Emily turned and ran out of the room. The hallway outside twisted like a maze. Doors slammed, walls moved. She ran through darkness, only to find herself right back at the start. The mirror room, but now it was empty, and the mirrors showed only her. Not the broken, tired version of herself, but a smiling one. Perfect. Calm. Too calm. Then the reflection began to move on its own. It reached through the glass again, but this time it pulled Emily into the mirror. She woke up in her apartment. It was daytime. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. Everything was normal. The clock read 8:30 a.m. Emily sat up slowly. Was it just a dream? She whispered. There was a knock at the door. She stood up and opened it. It was Mr. Keller, holding flowers. Good morning, Miss Emily, he said with a warm smile. Just wanted to say welcome again. I hope everything is fine. Emily stared at him. Mr. Keller, are you real? He laughed kindly. Of course I am. She nodded slowly and closed the door. She walked to the bathroom, looked in the mirror. Her reflection smiled back, but her own face didn't move. Emily stood frozen in front of the mirror. Her reflection was smiling, but she wasn't. She raised her hand slowly. So did the reflection. She blinked. So did it. But something felt wrong. The smile on the reflection's face stayed too long, too wide, like it wasn't just a smile, but a warning. She stepped back, heart pounding. What is happening to me? She whispered. Later that day, Emily went outside for the first time in days. The sun was bright. The sky was clear. People walked past her on the street. Everything looked normal, but something was off. The people didn't make eye contact. Their faces seemed blank. They moved like machines, not humans. A man bumped into her without saying sorry. A woman dropped her bag and just kept walking. Emily looked around. She felt like she was still trapped, but in a copy of the world. a fake version, like a dream that felt too real. She ran into a bookstore. It was quiet inside. The smell of old paper filled the air. Behind the counter was an old woman with silver hair. Her eyes met Emily's. And for the first time all day, someone really looked at her. "You're not from here," the woman said softly. Emily stepped closer. "What do you mean?" "You crossed over," the woman said, "through the mirror." Emily's mouth fell open. "You know about that?" The old woman nodded. "I've seen others. People who vanish. People who enter the wrong door at midnight. This town, this building, they are on the edge of two worlds, yours and his." "His?" Emily asked. The woman leaned forward. "The one who collects, the lost, the one who feeds on fear. He creates copies of your world, places that look normal but aren't. You are inside his trap now." Emily's voice shook. "How do I get out?" The woman looked sad. "Only one way. You have to face him. You have to break the curse where it began." Emily stepped back. "The apartment." The woman nodded. "Yes, room 6B. That's where it started, where the first death happened." That night, Emily returned to the apartment building. Everything was quiet. She took the elevator to the 6th floor. The hallway was dark and cold. She found room 6B. The door was covered in black scratch marks. The doorknob was icy cold. Emily turned it slowly. The door creaked open. Inside was a room frozen in time. Dust covered everything. A broken lamp, a bloody bedsheet, a photo on the wall of a woman with long hair. The first victim. Emily stepped inside. Suddenly the door slammed shut behind her. She spun around. Darkness filled the room, and then she heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Getting closer. She turned and saw him, the shadow man. No face. Long arms. Moving like smoke. "You found the beginning," he said, in a deep, cold voice. Emily stood tall, even though her legs were shaking. "Why me?" she asked. "You listened when others ignored. You looked when others turned away. You belong here." "No," Emily said. "This isn't my home." She pulled out the small mirror from her pocket, the one from her bathroom. She pointed it at him. Froze. His body shook. Cracks formed across his shadowy chest. Emily stepped forward. "You hide behind mirrors," she said, "but you're afraid of them too." The room shook. The walls cracked. The shadow screamed in rage. Emily threw the mirror at him. It shattered across his chest, and light burst from inside him. He screamed again, louder than anything she'd ever heard. Then silence. The room changed. The dust was gone. The blood disappeared. The air felt light. Emily opened the door. The hallway was bright again. She walked down the stairs, out of the building. Outside, people smiled. The world felt real. She looked at her reflection in a shop window. It smiled when she did. Everything was back to normal, or so she thought, until she saw it, in her reflection, far behind her. The shadow man stood at the edge of the street, waiting. Emily ran. She didn't look back. She couldn't. She had seen him again. The shadow man, standing behind her in the reflection, watching, waiting. But when she turned around, the street was empty. No people, no shadow, just cold air and silence. Emily walked home quickly. The city felt strange again. Lights flickered. Cars passed with no drivers. A baby cried from an empty stroller. She entered her apartment building and locked the door behind her. "I ended it," she whispered. "I broke the curse." But deep down, she knew it wasn't over. Later that night, Emily took a hot shower, trying to calm her nerves. She dried off and looked into the mirror. This time, her reflection looked normal, but something on her shoulder caught her eye. A mark, small, black, like a burn. She touched it. It hurt. "What is this?" she whispered. Suddenly, the mirror cracked, just like before. A voice whispered from inside it, "You're marked now." Emily backed away, shaking her head. No more. But the mark started to spread. Down her arm, like ink moving under her skin, she fell to the floor, gasping in pain. Visions filled her mind. She saw other people, other souls, all trapped in dark rooms, screaming, reaching through mirrors. Faces she didn't recognize, all of them with the same mark. Then she saw herself, standing in the middle of a giant mirror, surrounded by the Shadow Man's dark army. She screamed and woke up in her bed. Morning. The mark was still there, but smaller, faded, like it was hiding during the day. Emily needed help. She returned to the bookstore, but it was closed. The windows were boarded up. A paper sign on the door read, "Closed after tragedy. Owner found dead at midnight." Emily stepped back in horror. "The old woman," she whispered. "The only person who believed her? Gone." She looked around. Everyone on the street looked empty, cold, like puppets again. Was she the only one who remembered? Emily went to the town library. She searched through old records, news articles, police reports. She found more than she expected. 95. Woman found dead in apartment 6B. Time of death: midnight 2003. 2 college students vanished after moving in. Never found. 10. Local artist found in mirror room. Eyes missing. 2018. Man claims something watches him through glass. Dies 1 week later. Each case was linked to room 6B. Each case had one word scribbled in police notes, marked. She closed the book, hands shaking. Then she saw something new. A page she hadn't seen before. A legend about a creature called the Midnight Watcher. It lives between worlds. It enters through mirrors. It chooses people who are lost, alone, or curious. It marks them, and once marked, they can never truly leave, unless they destroy the origin mirror. The first mirror it ever used. Emily's eyes lit up. She remembered it. The old mirror in room 6B, the one behind the broken wall. She hadn't seen it clearly before, but she knew it was different, larger, older. Maybe that was the key. Maybe she could end it. That night, Emily returned to room 6B. She broke through the wall with a hammer. Behind it, covered in dust and webs, was a huge mirror, tall and black. Its surface was smooth like water. She stood in front of it. She saw herself, alone, tired, afraid, but behind her, in the reflection, the Shadow Man. He reached out from the mirror, touching her shoulder. The mark burned. "You found my heart," he whispered. "Now, become mine." Emily raised the hammer. She looked him in the eyes, if he even had eyes. "I'm not afraid of you anymore." And she swung the hammer. It smashed into the mirror, and the world exploded in sound and light. She woke up on the floor. The mirror was gone. Only dust remained. The mark on her arm, gone too. She stood up, her body weak, but her mind clear. Curse was broken. She walked outside. The sun was warm. People were smiling. Children were laughing. Everything was finally normal. But as she passed a shop window, She looked at her reflection and saw herself smiling back, too wide, too still. Emily sat in her apartment, staring at the window. Everything outside looked normal. The sky was blue. People walked past. Cars drove by. It was quiet, peaceful, but inside, something felt wrong. Ever since she broke the mirror in room 6B, things had changed, but not in the way she expected. She still felt watched. Sometimes, when she looked at her reflection, it didn't feel like her looking back. It blinked too late. It smiled too long. And sometimes, it didn't move at all. That night, she tested it. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, holding a flashlight. She waved it slowly. Her reflection copied her, but 1 second too late. She raised her left hand. The reflection raised its right. Emily's heart stopped. "That's not me," she whispered. Suddenly the mirror fogged up on its own, like a cold breath touched the glass. And then a word appeared, written in the fog. Almost. Emily backed away, terrified. The next day, she visited a local historian, an old man named Mr. Langley, who knew everything about the town's past. She showed him photos of room 6B and told him about the mirror, the deaths, the legends. He listened, quietly, then said something strange. "The mirror you broke may not have been the first." Emily blinked. "What do you mean?" "There's a story from over 100 years ago," he said. "A traveler brought a cursed mirror from Europe. They say it showed people their true selves. Or something worse. He went mad. The mirror disappeared after he died." Emily's chest tightened. "What if that mirror ended up in room 6B? Langley nodded. "It's possible. But if the spirit inside survived, it may have moved to another reflection." Emily felt cold all over. "The curse isn't gone," she said. "It's just hiding." That night, she covered every mirror in her apartment, bathroom mirror, TV screen, microwave, even her phone. No reflections, just darkness. She sat on her bed, holding a candle. The clock read 11:57 p.m. She waited. The air grew colder. The candle flickered. Dong midnight. Dong dong. Emily held her breath. Then the candle went out. The lights shut off. And from behind her came a voice. "You can't hide from yourself." Emily turned around slowly. The bathroom door creaked open. Inside was her reflection, but it was outside the mirror. It walked into the room. Same face, same body, but eyes too dark, skin too pale, mouth stretched into a grin that didn't belong. "I waited," the reflection said. "Now, I'm free." Emily stood up. "You're not me." "Oh, I am," the reflection said. "The part you left behind, the fear, the pain, the curiosity. You opened the door, and I walked through." The two Emilys stared at each other. "Why me?" Emily asked. "Because you looked when others looked away." The reflection said. "You listened. You cared. That's what called him." "Him?" Emily asked. The reflection pointed behind. Her Emily turned and saw the shadow man again, but he wasn't in the mirror anymore. He was in her room, tall, silent, watching. "Now," the reflection said, "we are one." The shadow man raised his hand. Emily screamed. Darkness swallowed everything. She woke up in the morning. In her bed, the sun was shining. Everything looked normal. She stood up and walked to the mirror. Her reflection smiled. Naturally this time, she smiled back. But as she walked away, the reflection kept smiling. And then it whispered, "Midnight was just the beginning." Emily no longer knew what was real. She looked in the mirror and saw her own face, but she didn't trust it anymore. Sometimes it smiled without reason. Sometimes it moved even when she stood still. She barely ate, barely slept. The days passed in silence. The nights were worse. Every night at midnight, something changed. The air felt colder. Her lights flickered. Shadows moved in the corners of her room. And every night, she saw him, the Shadow Man, not in the mirror, not in dreams, but in her apartment. He never spoke again. He only watched, waiting. Emily decided to end it, truly end it. She remembered what Mr. Langley said. The mirror you broke may not have been the first. If that was true, then the original mirror, the one that started the curse, might still exist. She dug through every local record, every basement in the library, every forgotten archive, and finally, she found something. A photo from 1893, old black and white picture of a mirror with carvings on the side, dark wood, strange symbols, and beneath it, a note, donated by Sir Elias Graves, year 1882, item, no, 13E, location, Black Hollow Manor. Emily felt her stomach twist. She knew Black Hollow. It was a rotting mansion just outside town, abandoned for years. That night, she packed a flashlight, a hammer, and one single candle. Black Hollow Manor was even worse than she remembered. Tall, broken, silent. Its windows were shattered. The wind howled through the empty halls. Emily pushed open the front door. It creaked like it hadn't moved in 100 years. Inside, everything smelled of rotten dust. She walked slowly, flashlight in hand. Her steps echoed. She passed faded paintings, cracked furniture, broken glass. Then in a back room, she found it. The mirror. It stood tall and dark, just like in the photo. Its surface didn't show her reflection. Only shadows, moving, twisting, crawling inside the glass like smoke. Emily stepped forward. "This is it," she whispered. The room grew colder. The shadows in the mirror began to take form. And then he stepped out. The Shadow Man. For the last time. He didn't speak, but his message was clear. One of them would stay. One of them would go. Emily stood tall. No more running. No more fear. She raised the hammer. The Shadow Man moved closer. She swung. The hammer hit the mirror, but bounced off. The mirror didn't break. It laughed, a deep, dark sound that shook the walls. "You can't break it," said a voice behind her. She turned. Her reflection stood there, her double, smiling that wide, cold smile. "You're not strong enough," it said. "You still fear the truth." Emily dropped the hammer. She looked at the mirror, at her reflection. Then she understood. To end this, she had to do more than destroy the mirror. She had to destroy what lived inside it. Her fear, her pain, her darkness. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the mirror. "Take me," she whispered. "Leave the others. Just take me." The Shadow Man stopped. The reflection froze. The mirror trembled. Suddenly, light burst from the glass. The room exploded in brightness. The shadow screamed. A terrible, burning sound. The mirror cracked. Once. Twice. Then shattered. Emily opened her eyes. She was outside, lying in the grass. The sun was rising. The manor was gone, like it had never existed. No pain, no shadows, no whispers. She stood up slowly, walked into town. The people were smiling again. Real smiles. Children laughed. Dogs barked. Birds sang. The world had come back to life. The curse was over. She looked at her reflection in a shop window. Smiled. then turned its head and winked. Emily laughed softly. "Maybe some things never fully go away," she said. But for now, she was free.